Okay, it's nighttime, or just getting to be dark, and the first day in England, first evening in England, and the room had $120 American in the Collins house on Ebury Street, down near Buckingham Palace Street. And this is just a little view of the neighbors. These are like 20-foot lots. And the stairs climb ever so steeply. These are units over there that look new, at least they look new on the outside, certainly redone with windows and a sliding door. A couple sat out there earlier today, but these I think are individual living units. There's some people down there cooking something up. Yeah. Satellite there, it's interesting. Bunch of satellite dishes up here. This hotel doesn't have anything but normal 3 channels of reception. It's now 5:30. The first morning that I woken up in England, and I thought I'd just shoot some video out the back slowly so we can see how many of the folks live behind the austere, somewhat austere and simple facades of the front of the streets, the houses and buildings. Behind are these very narrow lots, but also containing a modicum of private space, a respite with trees from the city's bustle. So here, instead of grandiose homes, they make quite good with small places. And if you look, you see a tremendous number of satellite receivers of varying sizes, and yet also the antennas for presumably television, radio perhaps. Would notice that little area down there. The couple was sitting there yesterday having a bite to eat and a glass of wine and chat. People down there last night were cooking. Presumably that's perhaps their entire flat, the 3 floors. Don't know. You can see the little modifications that the people have made over time. There, the sunroof, like a gazebo top. Over here, what once was a balcony has been apparently either framed out to that point to add more room, or that was the original design. It was just for looks and not seen by anybody but the people in the back. Here, don't know what this is. Looks like some kind of a skylight. And you can see where drainage here from the roof is provided, but this also is vehicles you can see down there for providing plumbing to the interiors of old buildings. You go up the outside and put it in, which makes sense. Probably our codes would not allow that. We'd have to tear the building down, build the whole thing over again so that it conformed precisely. There you look at the windows of each of these different units and see how they've altered things. There, someone's built out a very thin area, perhaps for a nook. There, a round window for some reason. Almost looks like it's not glassed in, but I'm sure it must be. And there, an arched window. Notice how the chimneys come out through the artificial wall dividers, or building dividers, if you will, those vertical walls. Look at the array of pipes coming out. I wonder what all those things must be for. This is our hotel, or Collin House. This is about 5:40 in the morning. Nice and quiet. This apparently is the area of Belgravia, which is a very expensive area. And the signs here, like in Australia, we have to look right, see what's coming, and it comes fast. Elizabeth Street Antiques and Restoration Services. This is across from the coach station, bus station, public library, 1892. No, rather than pour the dirt out on the ground for construction, everything is laid out neatly here so that the street remains preserved except for a little bit of debris there. This is Buckingham Palace Road. There's the Erector Set building. We're down at the other end of it from where we were before. The Victoria Coach Station. That's the elegant entryways, people sleeping in them. Victoria Library. Always seems early in the morning the backpackers and travelers, the young people are moving. Perhaps on tours just off to a new place, new adventure for a new life. Out of the young again and do it the right way. People sleeping everywhere in the hallways, the entranceways. Reminds me of the Soylent Green movie. What a curious contradiction that these old elegant buildings, or old looking elegant buildings, should also provide as entryways sleeping areas for, who knows, perhaps there are people behind that cardboard, giving them some semblance of a temporary home with some seclusion. Black people here, but gentleman heavily, nicely dressed, nice cologne, moving casually forward somewhere. Probably a lot of Africans migrate up here literally from Africa. What I call the Erector Set buildings, apparently all shopping and restaurants and so forth. Apparently access to these bus lines. I wonder if they just camp out there for the night, or whether they live in there and they get in late or something. It doesn't seem logical. These people, an Oriental fellow. Carl Larson and I yesterday had a little discussion of warm cities, cold cities. And his impression was that this was a cold city. And someone else talked about commented that all cities are cold. I think it depends on how you choose to look at a city. When I look at those buildings over there and the trees, it seems like a warm city, an old city, a city with character and heart and history, and those to me are warm attributes. It's certainly the way people tend to deal with you. Here is cold. The fact that people don't say hello, and even when you say hello, they may not. Others do. Buildings like this are cold. The modern stuff is cold, I think. Particularly this all metal building, although it is interesting, somewhat unique. And not the worst of new construction, that's for sure. With construction, I don't mind novel, new, modern construction. But the bland, what I call communist affordable housing, aluminum construction, I find intellectually, architecturally offensive. Like, who cares what I think? But this is no different than 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago at some market anywhere in the world, or even today in Southeast Asia markets where the market is quiet at this moment, but the people come here and make it come alive. Certainly there's some kind of warmth there as people pursue their lives, trying to survive, trying to improve themselves. Like most large cities, they all have the services that most of us wish for. Some simpler, some not. Mostly just different. Part of the white cream color that the governor here has dictated for all buildings every 5 years. He never sells them, he just rents them, if this is that area. But it certainly looks like that with the color. This is apparently part of the huge bus terminal system down here. It looks like it's just one of several bus systems, I think, unless it's just a pass-through for some reason. Well, sometimes if you're not sure, people will tell you what you're saying is wrong. This building has nothing to do with coaches. This almost looks like a static fountain, an industrialized vision of a fountain. It would take human beings to bring this alive because it looks cold and somewhat dirty. Well, where I am has been related to buses because they're all around here. And then here's Victoria Station here, which I think is the railway system. And I'm running out of tape, so I'm going to go back and get some more. Since it's only 6 o'clock in the morning. Been curious, little, it look like BBs or dots. They're only about 1/4 of an inch. They look like they're welded beads all along here. I wonder if they're the property line. I think they may be. I've just kind of gone around the block here. I'm running out of tape and I'm letting it run out of tape. Starbucks here all down through these roads are all of the American franchises. Including Subway, blah, 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 blah. And the American Embassy, McDonald's. And down there where that truck was turning is Ebury Street. We turn left and down Little Collins Hotel. Certainly in cities like this, which are so cosmopolitan because it's such an influx of people from everywhere, you see every kind of business. Even in these quaint, elegant, somewhat regal English, old English environs is what looks like a modern business chat moderators. I assume that's internet chat board monitors. Gentleman hairstyling. This second floor, 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, 815 square feet, and it cost 435 pounds, which would be probably close to about 870, so probably about 745, 760, something like that a month. Not too bad, except it was sold. Does that mean the same as rented? It's interesting how these facades are just exactly that. Very European looking from my American mind, and yet in places like Antigua, Guatemala, you'll see similar things. The buildings won't be quite as the same looking, but they'll have the same function. Blank pretty much on the outside, sterile on the outside, but then on the inside, no telling what kind of riches or lack of may be present. Of Ebury Street. What an elegant front that is. What it is, I don't know, although it does say, oh, Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming, the man who wrote James Bond series. 1908 to 1964. Lived here. Notice how beautifully well kept that is. This is a very elegant part of town. You'll see all along this road here down to our hotel, Mercedes, Lexus, and other expensive cars, BMWs. What lives live behind here? What do they look like behind here at Ebury 34 and 36 and 32? The preservation of the old in Europe is its most endearing cultural quality from my viewpoint. Of course, I don't know it well. That's all that I see, and so it's all that I really know. They're a cute little restaurant to have a bite to eat in the morning. Restorations going on up and down the street. The way old architecture tears upwards. This is some kind of, it looks like a church, but it's an infants. It says infants at the top. And at the back here, at the corner, down the stairs there through that gate is the nursery. It just has all the look of a church. I can understand in an environment like this how someone could be incredibly attached to it, and so they spend their life here. Although to me in the United States there are very few places that have that aura. I could care less if I stayed in my condominium or didn't, as long as I had a place that had at least those amenities and more. Yeah, the Grosvenor Estate, private muse. So this whole area is that. A wealthy man indeed, since he owns most of everything down here and simply leases it out. The ultimate landlord. Here again, that tiering effect that I find so fascinating. Notice the various forms of plumbing on the outside of the building. An intimate look into an unused portion. Notice the grill work, probably for a drain. Nice metal work, long time ago. And what is this different coloration here? Was there something there? Is that a replacement? Was that original? Look at the dirt, the grime, the moss. And these things designed to keep you from getting inside, which of course don't begin to work as well as the razor wire. And look at that drainage there. Did that once hold a pretty little window, maybe stained glass? So I'm on Ebury Street, Southwest 1, City of Westminster, a separate city from that of London. The National Bank Belgravia branch. Imagine what the construction of those buildings was like to watch those things go up. Imagine the time frame in which all these buildings have gone up. Needless to say, scaffolding is probably a profitable little interstices type business here. Apparently these Grosvenor Gardens are not to be trifled with by the public, since I see no way of accessing them and no sign that says when they may be open. An interesting building in this gardens. What its purpose is, I have no idea. It certainly would be called the Shell Building. As in most large cities, people pretty much ignore each other. I think that's a strategy for survival. If you start to notice everybody, you won't have enough time to do what you've got to do. Plus, you really don't care about everybody. You care about those you work with, people you personally know from some other reason. I'll have to look up Foch in the computer. I remember the name, 1851, 1929, but it's a French name and I don't know its connection to England. This is a Shakespeare restaurant, which we found the fish and chips to be very expensive, so we didn't go in. Tom and I went further down here to a little place down there and had fish and chips, which were passable. A little bit greasy, even though they looked much better than they were, because I don't like grease all over my fingers. Way down there, the Apollo Victoria, I assume is either a theater or a movie theater. Saturday Night Fever is on the billboard. This has restaurants in it, but it's just like any other mall. Just the outside is more antique and elegant. Since I've looked at the dressing of stones in Central America with the Anasazis, you notice here the fine detail down at the bottom, and then at the top, the rougher decorative dressing, just a pitting, if you will. But look at how elegant this is. I can't imagine that's carved. I would have to think that it was somehow molded and attached, but how detailed. Again, you see these dots. These are larger, about the size of a quarter. They go in a straight line. My guess is that does define the property line. Interesting. Here's where the Oriental fellow was, so he's folded up his tent and got out. And another still here. Perhaps it's just the people who get in late from a bus ride or a train ride, and well, they can get away with staying right here. Metropolitan Police to Belgravia. I said good morning to that gentleman there, nicely dressed, obviously a businessman, and his head was down, and he looked up at me and in surprise, and then said, "Oh, good morning." Actually, that gentleman that I was talking about just showed a moment ago, he looked up at me as we were both approaching each other, and then his head went back down, and then I said hello, and then by almost with great surprise, he looked back up. Look how this is an old stairway that's all been enclosed in, perhaps to make the lobby into a room. Looks like people are enjoying themselves here. And here we are, turning off of Buckingham Palace Road. And you notice there's the Ebury. Must be certainly an old-looking building that perhaps, just guessing, is where the name came from. Whoever was that lived there or had a business there or whatever. Don't know what it is now. That looks like an elegant chandelier, perhaps, in that room up there. And then this street down here would be Ebury to our right. This is the fun of getting up early and roaming around cities or towns or wherever you are, is to see a city wake up, to see interesting little things that you pass over so quickly. like the milk on the stoop of the restaurant here. La poulet, old pot, the chicken, pot and the chicken in the pot, I mean. So many fascinating places to spend time if you lived here and had money to burn, which some people don't have. Destitute woman living on the streets. What do women like that do as they get older? Are there places for them at a certain age? Do they simply have to make it till then? Look at this little bug. I remember seeing this thing in an advert. I forget what it is called now. But I tried to research it after I was in Italy. That's it. It's called the Smart car. What a cute little bug it is. Now we saw this call it an apartment complex from the other side earlier this morning, but what did they have to tear down to build all of these out? And is that a trend that's increasing or simply an anomaly? A lovely tree destroying the quaint works of man, which are nevertheless still supported. Notice how this extra piece has been put in the back here to hold this up, and the tree is growing around it. Good luck, fence. Must be a fine home. Probably an elegant car that I don't recognize, but nicely maintained. Who knows what's behind that? Most impressive, probably. And this is Eaton Terrace. One more thing named after me, of course, for which I get absolutely no benefit. Except for some little nostalgic historical illusion. Look at the one light that sits there. Was that something an owner put in? Or did it used to be the way the street was lighted? This is South Eaton Place. That's the same color that Belgravia is painted. And the Belgravia looks like an interesting restaurant and nearby Shell station. 85.9, 86. Smart cars, easy to park. The Chocolate Society, open to all. Mash Belgravia, fine fruitier since 1860. They also deal in flowers.
UK Gold.
Trafalgar Square, Westminster, and see if I can get onto the embankment. Okay. The Crimean War, which is 18 and which obviously is actually a war between the Russians and the English to do with trying to get control of the Crimea. Here's the British being imperialistic, as we do, or used to do. So you've got Hyde Park on the left-hand side, which is the sort of the lungs of London, if you like. It's where the big concerts are very often held. It's a really nice place. You've got the Serpentine there, where they go swimming on New Year's Day. Yeah, well, hey. Now we're coming up towards Marble Arch, and on the left you'll see Speaker's Corner, which is a fairly traditional place where anybody can get on a soapbox and talk. And the rules are you have to have your feet 9 inches off the ground. The reason being is that it all derives back to when it used to be where the gallows were, and people used to get hung. And before they were hung, they were allowed to make a speech and say anything they liked, as long as it wasn't treasonable or blasphemous.
Because if it was, they might get hung.
Tom, look to your left, Tom.
I know, I saw that. Isn't that neat?
So even that tradition is carried on. And nowadays anybody can go there on a Sunday and they can say anything they like, and they do. It's great, it's really funny. You get some real weirdos there talking some really strange stuff.
See, now we missed this.
Have there ever been any recorded notable speeches?
Oh yeah, you very often find politicians there, and people like Michael Foot and Jim Callaghan, Edward Heath. They actually practice.
Oh, we're coming around. Not as full as it is now.
What's that chariot, the statuary above us, in front
It's
of us?
a statue of Bodhiciah, or Boudica, who was an ancient British warrior princess of the Iceni. The Iceni were an ancient thick, but people couldn't breathe.
I know that wasn't one of the largest deaths, the greatest number of deaths from smog here in England, like thousands of people
Oh yeah,
died.
absolutely, yeah. Was there looking, hugging people and stuff. Princess Anne actually did far more hard work, but she was much more hands-off with things. You can't see, she doesn't hug people or anything like that.
Now, where is Sandringham?
Sandringham is in Norfolk.
And where?
Norfolk. So if you think where London is,
Yes.
if you go up the east coast of England, you've immediately got a very large lump, and that's East Anglia. It's very, very flat. And East Anglia's got Essex in it, Norfolk, Suffolk, and Cambridge to be literally an island. And right in the middle of that
This is
thing,
part of the green belt.
It's sand. Do every single day. What's better, I think, is
You want close-ups, Clarine, or have you seen cows before? Actually, I can't get too close.
and the current price on the internet auction was $5,000. I was thinking, ooh, that'd be interesting. I could afford that if I borrowed a bit of money.
This is Harwich, which is the port that we leave from and return to. Certainly looks like a commercial port over there. Focus in a little tighter. Imagine we plow out through that area there. Those cranes over there, particularly the ones down further, almost look like Star Wars things.
Yeah.
This is a close-up of the standard kind, and then this looks like the kind that's standard now. Some of the countryside nearby.
My uncle, when he had his funeral service, stayed on the campsite.
Oh, yeah. Was he Scottish? Ah. Yeah. And look how they move that with a crane, not automated. And then they manually slide that thing in its place. I wondered what that was for. Well, we are about to leave on our 12-day cruise with Scandinavia. Having performed our safety procedures with all 2,000 guests on deck. Yeah. First time I've seen buoy boats. We're just about ready to leave the port here. Those cranes look a lot like something out of Star Wars. See a lot of shipping going on here way out on the horizon. There are several boats or ships. If it were clear, it looks like we could see over to the other shore, way over. There are a lot of ships out there. I mean, 3 or 4 of them. Okay, we're just about ready to leave the harbor, literally. Tom says that that's the English Channel over there. And Europe is somewhere over there. What's interesting is to compare the size of that container ship to our ship.
A big ship.
And Judy just said that's a big ship. But we're probably higher now than the very top of that radar staff. Look at the lineup of ships beyond that are coming in or going out.
This was last year on the course for the first time. Her and my sisters. Anyway, this lady, I think, they went on the cruise. It was the first
Right.
after a couple of days out. All of a sudden, that must have come to the boat was just full of FBI.
Oh, yes, she did. Go
Really?
ahead. But she did tell her.